The thing about walking into a room full of predators is this. You need to decide very quickly whether you're prey or something worse. Elena Moretti made her decision the moment she laced her fingers through Sebastian's and pushed open the mahogany doors to her family's dining hall. The chandeliers overhead cast everything in golden light, but there's nothing warm about this room. The Moretti villa has hosted presidents, CEOs, and at least one cardinal with a gambling problem, but tonight it feels smaller than usual. Tighter. Like the walls are closing in with every step she takes. Her mother notices them first. The champagne glass freezes halfway to her perfectly painted lips, her eyes widening just enough to crack the mask she wears so well. Then her father. His knife goes still against his plate, the scrape of silver on porcelain dying mid-stroke. Her oldest brother stops mid-sentence, his mouth hanging open like he's forgotten how words work. And Elena? Elena keeps walking, her chin up, her grip on Sebastian's hand steady even though her pulse is screaming in her ears. Because Sebastian DeRossi doesn't belong here. Not in this world of old money and older sins, where bloodlines matter more than blood itself. He's too rough around the edges, scarred knuckles, a jaw that looks like it's taken a few hits, eyes the color of a winter storm that hasn't decided whether to pass over or destroy everything in its path. But he moves like he owns every inch of ground he walks on. Shoulders relaxed. Stride unhurried. The kind of man who's been in worse rooms than this and walked out without a scratch. Welcome back to Tales by Jalen. Before we get back to how Sebastian DeRossi changed the fate of an entire family in one night, tell me where this story finds you in the comments and hit that like button. Don't watch alone. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay connected for more thrilling stories. Now let's get back to that evening when everything changed. Her father recovers first. Of course he does. Victor Moretti didn't build an empire by showing weakness, even when a stranger invades his sanctuary. Elena. His voice cuts through the silence like a blade through silk. You didn't mention we'd be having additional company this evening. That's because I knew you'd find a reason to say no, she replies, and she hates how her voice wavers just slightly at the end. Sebastian pulls out her chair. The scrape of wood against marble echoes too loud, too long. He doesn't sit until she does, and when he finally settles into the seat beside her, he does it with the kind of ease that makes her father's jaw tighten. Her mother tries next, smile clicking into place like a weapon being loaded. Well, Sebastian, was it? How? Unexpected. Tell me, dear, how did you two meet? Sebastian's gaze slides to her, just for a heartbeat, and something in his expression softens. Then he turns back to the table. A library. During a rainstorm. The silence that follows could choke someone. Her younger brother, Luca, always desperate to prove himself, lets out a bark of laughter. A library? Seriously? What, were you trying to look smart or? I was looking for poetry, Sebastian says, his tone so even it's almost bored. Your sister found me. Best thing that ever happened to me. Elena's chest tightens. She remembers that day with painful clarity, how lost she'd felt, how suffocated by the weight of being a Moretti. And then this man, this stranger, had looked at her like she was the only real thing in a room full of illusions. Her father sets down his fork. Slowly. Deliberately. The kind of movement that makes everyone else at the table go still. And what is it you do, Sebastian? Each word is measured sharp. For a living, I mean. I solve problems. How wonderfully vague. Her father's smile doesn't touch his eyes. What kind of problems? The kind people pay me not to talk about. The temperature drops. Luca leans forward, grinning like he's found fresh meat. Come on, man. You're sitting at our table. You're holding our sister's hand. Give us something. Are you a lawyer? A consultant? Or maybe you're one of those Instagram influencers who... Luca, enough. Elena's voice cracks like a whip, but her brother just shrugs, still smirking. Her father raises one hand and the entire table goes quiet. Power. That's all it is. One gesture and everyone obeys. No, let him answer. Her father's gaze locks onto Sebastian like a sniper finding range. I think we deserve to know what kind of man believes he's earned the right to court a Moretti. He pauses, lets the weight of the family name hang in the air. So tell us, Sebastian, what exactly do you bring to my daughter's life? The question lands like a gauntlet thrown across the table. For 3 long seconds Sebastian doesn't move, doesn't speak. The silence stretches so thin it could snap. And then he turns to Elena. Not to her father. Not to her smug brothers or her ice queen mother. To her. His thumb brushes across the inside of her wrist, right where her pulse hammers against her skin, wild and terrified and exhilarated all at once. His eyes, those dark, dangerous eyes, hold hers with an intensity that makes the rest of the room fade into background noise. When he speaks, his voice is low, rough, but loud enough for everyone to hear. I bring her the one thing you never could. The room holds its breath. The certainty, Sebastian continues, each word deliberate, that she will never have to be afraid again. The chandelier might as well have shattered. Her mother's hand jerks, wine sloshing over the rim of her glass. Luca's smirk dies on his face. And her father goes absolutely rigid, his knuckles white where they grip the edge of the table. But Sebastian doesn't flinch. Doesn't apologize. Doesn't look away from Elena. His hand stays on hers. Steady. Unmovable. And for the first time in 28 years of living in this house, of surviving this family, Elena feels something she's never felt before at this table. Safe. Which is why she doesn't see the shadow moving in the hallway behind them. Doesn't hear the footsteps approaching until they're already at the door. Doesn't notice the way Sebastian's entire body goes still, not relaxed anymore but coiled, ready, until a voice she doesn't recognize calls out from the entrance. Well. Looks like the Morettis forgot to mention they'd already promised the girl to someone else. Elena's blood turns to ice. And Sebastian? Sebastian's hand slides away from hers, just for a second, to adjust something beneath his jacket that she's desperately hoping isn't what she thinks it is. Her father stands, face flushed, voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Julian. You're early. And uninvited, her mother adds, but her voice is weak, frightened. The man in the doorway, tall, blonde, wearing a suit that costs more than most people's cars, steps into the light. His smile is all teeth. Oh, I don't think I need an invitation, Vivian. Not when I own the deed to this entire estate. He tilts his head, gaze sliding past Elena's family and landing directly on her. Hello, sweetheart. Did Daddy forget to mention we're engaged? The world tilts. Sebastian stands. And the room somehow gets even quieter. 3 months earlier, Elena had been drowning. Not literally, though some days it felt close enough. She was drowning in expectations, in the suffocating weight of being Victor Moretti's only daughter, in champagne brunches where women smiled with their mouths and stabbed with their eyes. That Tuesday she was supposed to be at the country club. Her mother had arranged it weeks in advance. Lunch with the Castellano women, all of them draped in designer labels and passive-aggressive compliments. But halfway through getting dressed, Elena had looked at herself in the mirror. Pearls at her throat, silk dress that cost more than most people's rent, and felt like she was staring at a stranger. So she left. No explanation. No text message. Just grabbed her keys and drove into the city with the windows down and no destination in mind. The rain started 20 minutes later, fat drops that turned the world soft and blurred. She'd pulled into the first parking spot she found, which happened to be outside a library she'd never noticed before. The kind with stone steps worn smooth by decades of footsteps and ivy crawling up the brick facade. Inside it smelled like old paper and quiet rebellion. She'd wandered through the aisles with no plan, just grateful to be somewhere her last name didn't echo off the walls. That's when she saw him. He was standing in the poetry section, completely still, rain dripping from his dark hair onto the collar of a jacket that had seen better days. His hands were scarred. She noticed that right away, the kind of marks that come from work, from life, from things that don't happen behind a desk. He pulled a book from the shelf. Pablo Neruda. Flipped it open to a random page and something in his expression shifted. Like he'd just found a letter from an old friend. Elena hadn't planned to say anything. But then the words were already out. Good choice. He looked up and the world narrowed to just the two of them. His eyes were dark, nearly black, and they held hers with an intensity that should have scared her. Instead, it felt like coming up for air after being underwater too long. You think so? His voice was rough, low, the kind that made you lean in to hear better. Neruda doesn't waste words, she said, surprised at how steady she sounded. He writes about love like it's worth setting the world on fire for. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Not the polished, practiced smile she grew up with. This one was real. Unexpected. Then I'm buying this one. And maybe you can tell me which one I should read next. They'd stayed until closing time. 3 hours of bad coffee and whispered conversations tucked into a corner table where nobody knew her name. He asked about her favorite books, the places she dreamed of seeing, the last time something made her laugh so hard she cried. He didn't ask about her family. Didn't ask what she did or where she came from or any of the questions that usually came first. Just listened. Like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. When the rain finally stopped, he walked her to her car, boots splashing through puddles, his jacket draped over her shoulders because she'd mentioned being cold. At her car door, he'd taken her hand, gently like she was something precious, and pressed his lips to her knuckles in a gesture so old-fashioned it should have been ridiculous. Instead, it made her heart forget how to beat properly. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "If you'll let me." She should have asked his last name. Should have done what any smart Moretti daughter would do. Run a background check, ask questions, protect herself. Instead, she said yes. Because for the first time in her entire carefully constructed life, someone had looked at Elena. Not the family, not the fortune, not the perfectly curated version of herself she presented to the world, and seen something worth knowing. She didn't realize until much later that he'd never once asked for her last name either. And by then it was already too late. She'd fallen for the man in the library. The one who quoted Neruda and listened like her words mattered and held her hand like she was the only solid thing in a world built on smoke. Now, standing in her family's dining room with Julian's cruel smile cutting through the air and her father's lies bleeding out into the open, she finally understood something Sebastian had known all along. Sometimes the safest cage is the one you've lived in your whole life. And sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is let someone show you the key. Julian's smile could cut glass. He stands in the doorway like he owns it. Owns the room, the house, maybe even the people inside it. His suit is immaculate, his hair perfectly styled, and there's a smugness in his eyes that makes Elena's stomach turn. Engaged. Elena's voice comes out strangled, disbelieving. She whips her head toward her father. What is he talking about? Her father won't meet her eyes. That tells her everything. Elena, sweetheart, her mother starts, reaching across the table, but Elena jerks away. Don't. The word cracks like a whip. Don't you dare sweetheart me right now. Julian takes another step into the room, hands casually in his pockets. Oh, this is awkward. Victor, you really didn't tell her? He said, shaking his head with mock sympathy. That's poor form even for you. Get out. Sebastian's voice is quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before a storm tears the roof off. Julian's eyes slide to him, amused. I'm sorry, who are you exactly? The man telling you to leave. Funny. Julian's smile widens. Because last I checked, I own the deed to this property. Which means technically I'm the one who decides who stays and who goes. He pulls a folded document from his inside pocket, waves it almost lazily. Your father signed over the estate 6 months ago to settle a rather substantial debt. Isn't that right, Victor? The silence is deafening. Elena feels the room tilt. Dad. Her father finally looks at her, and the guilt in his eyes confirms everything. It was temporary. Just until we could restructure some investments. You sold our home? Her voice rises. You sold. She stops, realization crashing over her like ice water. This is why. The dinner. You inviting me back. This was never about family. He laughs, but it sounds broken. This was about selling me too. Elena, you're being dramatic. Am I? She's standing now, though she doesn't remember getting up. How much am I worth, Dad? What's the going rate for a Moretti daughter these days? Enough. Her father slams his palm on the table, making the crystal shudder. You will not speak to me that way. This family has given you everything. This family has given me a cage. Her hands are shaking. And you just handed the key to him. Julian spreads his hands, all false sympathy. Come now, it's not so bad. I'm quite a catch if you ask the right people. Rich, connected, and I promise I won't bore you too much. His eyes rake over her in a way that makes her skin crawl. We'll make beautiful, profitable children. Sebastian moves. Not fast. Not violent. But he steps between Elena and Julian with the kind of precision that says he's calculated every possible angle, every potential threat, every way this could go wrong. You need to leave, Sebastian says again. Now. Julian laughs. Or what? What exactly? Throw me out. He looks Sebastian up and down, assessing. You've got the look of someone who thinks he's tough. Military? Private security? Let me guess. Bodyguard trying to play boyfriend. Julian, please. Her mother stands, voice brittle. Perhaps we should discuss this another time. No, I think now is perfect. Julian's smile vanishes. See, I've been very patient with the Morettis. Very understanding about their financial difficulties. But patience has limits. He looks past Sebastian to Elena. You're part of the deal, sweetheart. Your father promised you, and I always collect what I'm owed. She's not property, Sebastian says, and there's something in his voice now. Something cold and sharp and absolutely final. Julian's eyes narrow. And you are. I'm the reason you're going to walk out that door and forget this conversation ever happened. For the first time, Julian's confidence flickers. Just slightly. Because Sebastian hasn't raised his voice, hasn't made a fist, hasn't done anything overtly threatening. But there's something in the way he stands, loose, balanced, ready, that triggers some primal instinct in Julian's brain. The instinct that says, predator. Is that a threat? Julian asks, trying to sound amused and almost succeeding. No. Sebastian's head tilts slightly. Threats are what people make when they're trying to convince you they're dangerous. I don't need to convince you of anything. You already know. The room goes very, very still. Julian opens his mouth. Closes it. His hand drifts toward his pocket. Whether for his phone or something else, Elena can't tell. But Sebastian's eyes track the movement with laser focus. I wouldn't, Sebastian says softly. And Julian freezes. Because in that moment, standing in the Moretti dining room under the golden light of chandeliers and the weight of old money, Julian finally understands something important. He's not the most dangerous man in the room anymore. He might not even be in the top 3. Elena makes it to the garden before the tears come. She's good at that, holding it together until she's alone, until no one can see the cracks in the porcelain mask she's worn her entire life. The night air is cold against her flushed cheeks, and she gulps it down like she's been underwater. The garden is her mother's pride. Perfectly manicured hedges, marble fountains, roses that cost more to maintain than most people's salaries. It's beautiful in the way museums are beautiful. Untouchable, lifeless, existing only to be admired from a distance. He hates it. Her hands shake as she grips the edge of the fountain, staring down at her reflection in the water. 28 years old, and she's still her father's puppet. Still a line item in the family ledger. Still something to be traded when the numbers don't add up. Sold, she whispers to her reflection. Like furniture. Like stocks. The first sob catches her off guard, ripping out of her chest before she can stop it. Then another. And another. Until she's bent over the fountain edge, shoulders shaking, trying desperately to cry quietly because even here, even now, she can't let them hear her break. Elena. She jerks upright, swiping frantically at her tears. Sebastian stands at the garden entrance, his silhouette backlit by the warm glow from the house. She doesn't know how long he's been there. I'm fine, she says automatically, the lie so practiced it almost sounds true. He doesn't respond. Just walks toward her with that unhurried certainty he carries everywhere, like he's never rushed for anything in his life. When he reaches her, he shrugs off his jacket and drapes it over her shoulders. You're shivering, he says quietly. I said I'm fine. I heard you. He's close enough now that she can see his face in the moonlight, the hard angles, the shadows under his eyes, The scar on his jaw she's traced with her fingers a dozen times but never asked about. You're also lying. The gentleness in his voice breaks something inside her. He sold me. The words tumble out raw and jagged. My own father. Like I'm nothing. Just another asset to liquidate when the bills come due. She laughs, bitter and broken. And the worst part? I'm not even surprised. I should be, right? I should be shocked that my own family would. Her voice cracks. But I'm not. Because this is what they do. This is what they've always done. Sebastian's jaw tightens, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. Where is he? Julian. Sebastian, don't. Where is he? The edge in his voice makes her pause. She's heard him angry before, seen the flash of it when a man at a restaurant grabbed her wrist, watched it simmer when her mother made a cutting remark about her career choices. But this is different. This is rage, cold and controlled and utterly merciless. He left, she says quickly. After you, whatever you did, whatever he saw in you, it scared him. He left. Good. Sebastian's hands curl into fists at his sides. Because if he'd stayed, I would've. He stops himself, exhales sharply through his nose. I would have done something I can't take back. You would have protected me. She steps closer, her hand finding his chest, feeling his heart hammering beneath her palm. Like you always do. His hand covers hers, warm and solid. Always. Why? The question comes out smaller than she intended. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. My family, this mess, none of it is your problem. He's quiet for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. When he finally speaks, his voice is rough, like the words are costing him something. 3 months ago I walked into a library in the rain. I wasn't looking for anything. Wasn't looking for anyone. And then you. He shakes his head, almost smiling. You recommended Neruda like it was the most important thing in the world. Like poetry mattered. Like beauty still existed somewhere outside of violence and power and all the ugly things I've spent my life swimming in. Sebastian. You looked at me, he continues, and you didn't see a weapon. You didn't see something to use or fear or negotiate with. You saw me. Whatever that is. His free hand comes up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a tear she didn't realize had fallen. So yeah, I care. I care so much it scares the hell out of me. And if burning down your father's entire empire is what it takes to make you smile again. His eyes lock onto hers, fierce and unwavering. I'll bring the gasoline. The world narrows to just the two of them. His hand on her face, her fingers curled in his shirt, the space between them crackling with something dangerous and inevitable. You don't mean that, she whispers, but she wants him to. God help her, she wants him to. Try me. And then he's kissing her. Not gentle. Not careful. Like he's been holding back for 3 months and finally he doesn't have to anymore. His hand slides into her hair, angling her head, and she gasps against his mouth, her hands fisting in his shirt to pull him closer. He tastes like whiskey and promises, and when he pulls back just enough to breathe, his forehead rests against hers. I'll protect you, he murmurs against her lips. From all of them. Even if it costs me everything. She believes him. That's the terrifying part. She believes every word. They have exactly 12 seconds of peace. 12 seconds where it's just Elena and Sebastian in the garden, her lips still tingling from his kiss, his hands still cradling her face like she's something precious. 12 seconds where she lets herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she can have this. Have him. Have something that's hers and hers alone. Then the shouting starts. It comes from inside the house. Her father's voice, loud and defensive, followed by her mother's sharp tone trying to smooth things over. Elena's stomach drops. Stay here, Sebastian says, already moving toward the house. Like hell. She's right behind him, his jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. They reach the dining room just as her father slams both palms on the table hard enough to rattle the china. You can't just walk in here unannounced and start making demands. Can't I? Julian Ashford stands at the head of the table now, looking entirely too comfortable for someone who wasn't invited. He's changed since they saw him last, Or maybe Elena just sees him more clearly now. The expensive suit, the calculated smile, the way he looks at her family like they're assets on a spreadsheet. Last I checked, Victor, you cashed my check. That means I own more than just property rights. Alex stands near the window, arms crossed, looking murderous. Luca hovers by the bar, pale and uncomfortable. Her mother sits frozen in her chair, wine glass trembling in her hand. What's going on? Elena demands, stepping into the room. Everyone turns. Julian's smile widens when he sees her, like she's just proven his point by showing up. Ah, there she is. He straightens his cuffs, casual as anything. We were just discussing the terms of our arrangement. What arrangement? But even as she asks, ice floods her veins. Because she knows. Somehow she already knows. Her father won't look at her. That's answer enough. Dad. Her voice cracks on the word. What did you do? It's a business arrangement, her father says, but he's talking to the table, not to her. A merger of families. Very traditional, very. He promised you to me, Julian interrupts, because apparently he's done pretending to be civilized. 6 months ago. In exchange for clearing a rather significant debt and acquiring certain properties that were about to be seized by some very impatient creditors. He tilts his head, studying her like she's a painting he's considering purchasing. I'm a patient man, Elena. I let your father have his time to prepare you for the arrangement. But patience has limits. The room spins. You sold me. She's looking at her father now, really looking at him and seeing a stranger. You sold me like I'm livestock. Don't be dramatic, her mother snaps. This is how families like ours have operated for generations. Alliances, mergers. Human trafficking, Sebastian says from behind Elena, his voice like frozen steel. The word you're looking for is human trafficking. Julian's eyes narrow as he finally seems to notice Sebastian. And who might you be? Leaving. Sebastian's hand finds Elena's, squeezes once. We're both leaving. I don't think so. Julian pulls a folded document from his jacket, sets it on the table with a soft thud. This is a legally binding contract. Victor signed it. I have witnesses. And according to the terms, which your father was very eager to agree to when his accounts were being frozen, Elena becomes my fiancée. The wedding is scheduled for 3 months from now. You can't, Elena's voice fails her. She looks at her father, desperate for him to deny it, to say it's a lie, to be the man she once thought he was. Daddy, please. Tell me this isn't real. Her father's jaw works. He looks older, suddenly smaller. It was the only way to save the family. The business, the house, everything we've built. Everything you built, Elena whispers. On the back of your own daughter. You're being selfish, her father says, and the words hit like a slap. This family has given you everything. A name, a home, an education. And when we ask for one thing in return, you're not asking. Her whole body is shaking now. You already decided. You sold me 6 months ago and didn't even have the decency to tell me. Alex shifts uncomfortably. Elena, look, it's not ideal, but Julian's not a bad guy. Rich, connected. I don't care if he's the King of England, Elena snaps. I'm not marrying him. Actually, Julian says, his voice taking on an edge, you don't have much choice. The contract stipulates that if you refuse, your father forfeits everything. The estate, the business, his reputation. The Moretti name becomes worthless. He steps closer and Sebastian's hand tightens on Elena's. So really, sweetheart, the question is, how selfish are you willing to be? The trap closes around her with perfect precision. Refuse and she destroys her family, her brothers, her mother, everything they've spent generations building. Accept and she destroys herself. This is insane, she breathes. This can't be legal. Contracts like this are more common than you'd think among families like ours, Julian says smoothly. And entirely enforceable. I have excellent lawyers. Elena looks around the room, at her father who won't meet her eyes, her mother who looks away, her brothers who suddenly find the floor fascinating. No one is fighting for her. No one is standing up. No one except Sebastian. His hand is still in hers, steady and sure, and when she looks at him she sees something in his eyes that terrifies and comforts her in equal measure. He's already decided. Whatever comes next, whoever gets hurt, whatever it costs, he's already decided that she's worth it. Elena, her father says, and he sounds tired now, defeated. Please. Just think about the family. She laughs, sharp and bitter. I've thought about nothing but the family my entire life. She looks at Julian, at this man who thinks he owns her. The answer is no. Burn your contract. I'm not marrying you. Julian's smile vanishes. Then your family burns instead. Let it, Sebastian says quietly. And the whole room goes cold. The words hang in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Let it burn. Julian's face goes red. Excuse me. Sebastian doesn't repeat himself. He just steps forward, positioning himself between Elena and Julian with the kind of deliberate movement that makes Julian take an involuntary step back. You heard me, Sebastian says, his voice calm, almost conversational. Let it burn. The estate, the business, the precious Moretti name. All of it. Let it turn to ash. Sebastian, Elena's father stands, his chair scraping against marble. You don't understand what you're. I understand perfectly. Sebastian's eyes don't leave Julian. You gambled with your daughter's life and lost. Now you want her to pay your debts. His head tilts slightly. That ends tonight. Who the hell do you think you are? Alex moves forward, trying to reclaim some authority. You've been dating our sister for what, 3 months? You don't get a vote in family business. You're right. Sebastian's gaze slides to Alex, cold and assessing. I don't get a vote. Because this isn't family business. This is human trafficking dressed up in legal paperwork and old money arrogance. He pauses. And I'm not asking for permission. Julian laughs, sharp and mean. Oh, this is rich. The boyfriend thinks he's going to save the day. What are you going to do exactly? You can't break a legal contract. You can't pay off the debt. I doubt you have that kind of money. And you certainly can't. She's mine. The words cut through Julian's monologue like a blade through silk. Sebastian turns to face the room, and there's something different about him now. The careful politeness he's worn all evening is gone, stripped away like a mask he's tired of wearing. What's left underneath is harder, darker, absolutely unyielding. Elena is mine, he says again, louder this time, his hand finding hers and pulling her close against his side. Not yours. Not her father's. Not a bargaining chip or a contract clause or a solution to your financial problems. His arm wraps around her waist, possessive and protective. She's mine. And I protect what's mine. Elena's heart hammers against her ribs. She should probably be offended by the caveman declaration, the possessive way he's holding her, the dangerous edge in his voice. But all she feels is safe. Safer than she's felt in her entire life. This is ridiculous, her mother says, finally finding her voice. Sebastian, you seem like a nice young man, but you're in over your head. This is a family matter. No. Elena surprises herself with how steady her voice sounds. He's right. This stopped being a family matter the second you decided to sell me. She looks at her father, and something inside her chest cracks and hardens simultaneously. I'm done. With all of it. The expectations, the manipulation, the idea that I owe you my entire life because you gave me theirs. Elena, if you walk away from this, you're walking away from everything, her father warns, his voice heavy with threat. Your trust fund, your inheritance, your name. Good. The word tastes like freedom. Keep it. I don't want anything that comes with strings attached to men like him. She nods toward Julian, who's watching the scene unfold with barely concealed fury. You ungrateful. Her father's face goes purple. Sebastian moves. 1 second he's standing beside Elena, the next he's across the room, his hand flat on the table in front of her father, leaning in close enough that only Victor can hear what he says. But Elena sees her father's face go white. Sees the way his hands start to shake. Sees the exact moment he understands that Sebastian isn't bluffing about anything. When Sebastian straightens and turns back to the room, there's a finality in his posture that makes even Alex shut his mouth. We're leaving, Sebastian says, extending his hand to Elena. Now. She takes it without hesitation. You can't just leave, Julian sputters, his composure finally cracking. The contract is worthless. Sebastian doesn't even look at him. Sue her if you want. Take her to court. Drag the Moretti name through every newspaper and legal filing you can afford. He pauses at the doorway, Elena's hand firmly in his. But if you come near her again, if you call her, text her, send her flowers, even think about her too long, I will make you regret ever learning her name. Is that a threat? Julian demands. Sebastian's smile is all teeth and no warmth. No. Threats are what people make when they need you to believe they're dangerous. He pulls Elena closer, his arm around her shoulders like a shield. I'm just telling you how it's going to be. For a long moment nobody moves. The Moretti family frozen in tableau, Julian red-faced and furious, the entire carefully constructed evening shattered beyond repair. Then Sebastian turns, guiding Elena toward the door, and she goes willingly. Behind them, her mother's voice rises in protest. Her father is shouting something about consequences. Alex and Luca are arguing with each other. But Elena doesn't look back. Because Sebastian's arm is around her, steady and sure. And for the first time in 28 years, someone chose her over the family name. Someone chose her. And that's worth more than all the Moretti money in the world. They make it halfway down the front steps before the lights appear. Elena sees them first, sleek black SUVs with tinted windows, rolling up the circular driveway in perfect formation. No sirens, no rush, just the quiet inevitability of shadows claiming their territory. Sebastian. Her voice catches. It's fine. His hand tightens on hers, but he doesn't seem surprised. Doesn't even seem concerned. Just insurance. 4 vehicles. Maybe 5. She loses count as they form a semicircle around the front of the villa, engines purring like predators at rest. The doors open in unison and men step out, all dressed in dark suits, all moving with the same controlled precision that Sebastian carries like a second skin. Behind them, the villa's front door crashes open. What the hell is this? Her father's voice booms across the courtyard, Alex and Luca flanking him like ineffective bodyguards. Julian appears in the doorway behind them, his earlier confidence wavering. One of the men approaches Sebastian and Elena's breath catches. He's older, maybe 50, with silver streaking his dark hair and scars that map a violent history across his knuckles. He doesn't look at Elena. His focus is entirely on Sebastian. Boss, he says, his accent thick. Italian, she realizes. Sicilian, maybe. We came as soon as we got word. Boss. The word ricochets through Elena's skull. Wasn't necessary, Dante, Sebastian says, but there's no real reprimand in his voice. Told you I had it handled. With respect, sir, when you walk into a viper's nest alone, we don't take chances. Dante's eyes finally flick to Elena, assessing, then back to Sebastian. This her? Yeah. Something softens in Sebastian's expression. This is her. Dante nods once, sharp and respectful, then turns to face the house. The perimeter is secure. No one leaves or enters without your permission. Elena's father has gone completely still on the steps, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and then, slowly, terribly, recognition. DeRossi, her father whispers, and the name comes out like a curse. Sebastian DeRossi. Not just DeRossi. The DeRossi. Oh God. Her mother's hand flies to her mouth. Even from here, Elena can see her trembling. Victor, what did you do? What did you let into our home? Julian has gone pale. Chilly pale. Like someone just told him his execution date. You said he was nobody. A random boyfriend. You said. I said I didn't know who he was, her father snaps, but his voice is shaking now. How was I supposed to know she was dating the head of the entire East Coast syndicate? The words don't make sense. Elena looks at Sebastian, really looks at him. The same man who quoted Neruda in a rain-soaked library. Who kissed her in the garden like she was his entire world. Who just stood between her and her family like a wall of pure determination. Sebastian. Her voice comes out smaller than she wants. What are they talking about? He meets her eyes and she sees it then. The truth he's been hiding, the weight he's been carrying, the reason men like Julian back down when he speaks. I was going to tell you, he says quietly. Tonight, actually. After dinner. I had this whole plan. He runs a hand through his hair, looking more uncertain than she's ever seen him. I didn't want you to find out like this. Find out what? That I'm not just Sebastian DeRossi. His jaw tightens. I'm the head of the DeRossi family. Have been since I was 23 when my father died and left me an empire built on blood and fear and things that would make you run if you knew the details. The world tilts sideways. She can't finish the sentence. Can't make her mouth form the words. Mafia, Alex says from the steps, his voice hollow. He's the fucking king of the Italian mafia. Jesus Christ, Elena, do you have any idea what you've brought into this house? Actually, Dante interjects, his tone almost amused. She brought him. And you idiots tried to sell her to Julian Ashford. He spits the name like poison. Who, by the way, still owes the DeRossi family $3 million in unpaid debts from a casino venture that went south 2 years ago. Julian makes it sound like a dying animal. Sebastian's men have spread out now, a loose circle of lethal competence surrounding the villa. Not threatening exactly. His present. Undeniable. Her father sinks onto the steps, all the fight draining out of him. This is a mistake. This has to be a mistake. No mistake, Sebastian says, and his voice carries across the courtyard with absolute authority. You tried to auction off the woman I love. That was your mistake. He pulls Elena closer, his arm protective around her waist. Here's how this works now. The contract with Julian is void. If he argues, Dante will explain the consequences. The debt you owe him gets transferred to my accounts. You'll pay me back with interest but on my timeline. And Elena. His voice softens when he says her name. Elena is off limits. Permanently. She doesn't exist to you as a business asset. She's not a bargaining chip. She's mine. And if we refuse? Alex tries to sound defiant. It doesn't work. Sebastian's smile is cold enough to freeze blood. Then I stop being polite. The silence that follows is absolute. Elena's family stands frozen on the steps of their villa. A villa that suddenly feels very small, very fragile, surrounded by men who've built empires on violence. And Sebastian, the man she fell for in a library, holds her hand like she's the only thing that matters in a world gone mad. Boss, Dante says quietly. We should move. Long exposure isn't safe. Sebastian nods, then looks down at Elena. You ready? He should be terrified. Should be running. Should be demanding answers and explanations and proof that this is all some terrible dream. Instead she squeezes his hand. Yeah, she whispers. I'm ready. The car is silent except for the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the radio up front where Dante drives. Elena sits pressed against the window, watching the city lights blur past, her mind a hurricane of conflicting thoughts. Sebastian sits beside her, close enough to touch but giving her space. Like he knows she's balancing on a razor's edge between staying and running. Say something, he finally murmurs. Yell at me. Hit me. Something. I don't know what to say. Her voice sounds hollow even to her own ears. 3 months. We've been together for 3 months and you never thought to mention that you're. She can't even finish the sentence. A criminal? His laugh is bitter. A killer? The man mothers warn their daughters about. The head of the mafia. She turns to face him and her eyes are bright with unshed tears. You let me fall in love with you and you never told me the truth. I told you the truth. He shifts to face her fully. Everything I said in that library, everything we've shared, that was real, Elena. That was me. The part of me that exists when I'm not being what my family name demands. But you are that name. Those men out there, the guns, the power, that's who you are too. Yes. He doesn't flinch from it. I inherited an empire built on violence when I was barely old enough to vote. My father died bloody in a warehouse and the family needed a leader. So I became one. His jaw tightens. I've done things that would keep you awake at night. Ordered things I can't take back. Made decisions that haunt me every time I close my eyes. She's crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. Then why? Why drag me into this? Why not just leave me alone? Because I couldn't. His hand reaches for hers, hesitates, falls back. Because you walked into that library and looked at me like I was human. Like I was worth something beyond my capacity for violence. And for 3 months when I was with you I got to be Sebastian. Just Sebastian. Not the boss, not the heir, not the monster they made me into. His voice cracks. You made me remember what it feels like to be clean. The car pulls to a stop. Elena realizes they're at Sebastian's penthouse. Sleek, modern, perched high above the city like a crown. Come upstairs, Sebastian says quietly. Let me show you something. And then you can choose. He should say no. Should demand Dante drive her anywhere else. A hotel, a friend's place, literally anywhere that isn't deeper into Sebastian's world. Instead she nods. The penthouse is nothing like she expected. No ostentatious displays of wealth, no tacky gold fixtures. Just clean lines, dark wood floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that glitters like broken glass. Sebastian leads her to his study and from a locked drawer in his desk he pulls out 2 things. A gun. Black, heavy, lethal. And a single red rose, its petals perfect and soft. He sets them both on the desk between them. I need you to understand what you're choosing, he says, his voice raw. This, he gestures to the gun, is what I am to the world. A weapon. A threat. The man who solves problems with violence because that's the only language my world understands. He touches the rose, gentle despite his scarred knuckles. But this is what I want to be for you. Something beautiful. Something that makes you smile instead of flinch. Elena stares at the objects, her heart pounding. I can't change what I am, Sebastian continues. I can't undo the blood on my hands or erase my name from the underworld. I'm a monster to them, Elena. To my enemies, to the law, to everyone who knows what the DeRossi family really does. He steps closer and she can see the desperation in his eyes. But I can be a servant to you. Your protector. The man who burns down the world if it means keeping you safe. Sebastian. The gun means you walk away. Right now. Tonight. I'll have Dante take you anywhere you want to go. I'll make sure your family never touches you, that Julian never comes near you. You'll be safe and you'll be free of me. His voice drops to barely a whisper. The rose means you stay. Knowing what I am. Knowing what loving me will cost. Knowing that my enemies will come for you, that you'll never be completely safe, that being with me means living in the shadows of violence. He picks up both objects, holds them out to her. Choose, Elena. And I'll respect whatever you decide. Her hands shake as she reaches forward. The gun is cold and heavy in her palm. She's never held one before, never wanted to. It represents everything she's tried to escape. Power, violence, control through fear. The rose is soft, fragile. It'll die in a few days, its beauty temporary and fleeting. Just like any illusion of a normal life with a man like Sebastian. She looks at him, really looks at him. Sees the man who quoted Neruda, who kissed her like she was his salvation, who stood between her and her family's cruelty without hesitation. But she also sees the boss, the killer, the king of an empire built on blood. Both men are real. Both men are standing in front of her, offering her a choice. She sets down the gun, picks up the rose, and watches Sebastian's knees nearly buckle with relief. I'm terrified, she whispers. Of you. Of this world. Of what loving you means. I know. But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been. She steps closer, the rose still clutched in her hand. So teach me. Teach me how to survive in your world. Because I'm choosing you, Sebastian DeRossi. The poet and the monster. All of it. He pulls her into his arms so fast the rose petals scatter, and when he kisses her, it tastes like relief and promises and the beginning of something beautiful and dangerous. Morning comes with the smell of coffee and the sound of urgent voices in the next room. Elena wakes in Sebastian's bed. Nothing happened, he'd simply held her until she fell asleep, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. Now she wraps herself in one of his shirts and pads barefoot toward the voices. Sebastian stands at the dining table, phone pressed to his ear, while Dante spreads documents across the polished surface. 3 other men she doesn't recognize occupy chairs, all of them studying papers with the intensity of surgeons planning an operation. I don't care what his lawyer says, Sebastian growls into the phone. The Ashford contract is built on a foundation of fraud. Victor Moretti signed under duress, and I have 3 witnesses willing to testify. He pauses, listening. No. No violence. We do this clean. I want it ironclad. He notices her then, and something in his expression softens. He ends the call. Coffee? He offers, already moving toward the kitchen. Answers, she counters, settling into a chair. What's all this? Dante looks up, his weathered face creasing into something almost resembling approval. Sebastian returns with 2 mugs, sets one in front of her, then sits beside her. Julian's contract with your father. I'm breaking it. How? You can't just. Actually, I can. He slides a document toward her. Your father signed that contract when his business was 24 hours from bankruptcy. He had no legal counsel present, no time to review terms, and Julian knew it. That's coercion. Any decent lawyer could argue it's unenforceable. But Julian has good lawyers. I have better ones. Sebastian's smile is sharp. And I have something Julian doesn't: leverage. One of the other men, younger, wearing glasses that make him look more accountant than mobster, clears his throat. Julian Ashford owes the DeRossi family $3.2 million from a casino investment that collapsed in Atlantic City. He's been dodging payment for 2 years. Plus, Dante adds, sliding another document forward, we've discovered some very interesting discrepancies in how he acquired the Moretti debt in the first place. Seems he bought it from the original creditors for pennies on the dollar, then inflated the amount he told your father he owed. Elena's eyes widen. That's fraud. Exactly. Sebastian leans back, and there's a cold satisfaction in his voice. So here's what's going to happen. At 10 o'clock this morning, Julian is coming here. Here. Her pulse spikes. Sebastian, I don't want to see him. You don't have to. His hand covers hers. You can stay in the bedroom, leave entirely, whatever you want. But I need him to know you're protected. That you're not alone. His thumb brushes across her knuckles. And I need him to understand what happens if he ever speaks your name again. Julian arrives at 9:58, flanked by 2 lawyers who look expensive and irritated. Elena watches from the bedroom doorway, just out of sight, as Dante escorts them into the living room. Julian's confidence from last night has developed cracks. His smile is too tight, his movements too controlled. DeRossi. He tries for casual and misses. Didn't expect to be summoned like a debtor. Sebastian doesn't stand, doesn't offer his hand. That's what you are, Julian. A debtor who's been dodging payment while trying to collect on fraudulent contracts. I don't know what you're. Sebastian nods, and the accountant-looking man places a folder in front of Julian. Open it. Julian does, and Elena watches the color drain from his face. That's a detailed accounting of every dollar you owe my family, Sebastian says quietly. With interest. Compounded daily. Comes to just over 4 million now. He pauses. The second folder contains evidence of the fraud you perpetrated against Victor Moretti. Buying his debt cheap, inflating the amount, coercing him into signing over his daughter. One of Julian's lawyers starts reading, and his expression goes carefully blank. The third folder, Sebastian continues, is a contract. My contract. Here's how it works. You forgive the entire Moretti debt. All of it. You return any deeds, documents, or claims you have on their property. You release Elena from any and all agreements her father made on her behalf. His voice drops into something colder. And in exchange, I'll forgive half of what you owe me. Half. Julian sputters. That's still 2 million. 2 million you actually have to pay instead of 4 million plus the criminal charges for fraud and coercion. Sebastian's smile could cut diamonds. I'm being generous, Julian. Don't mistake that for weakness. The room goes silent except for the ticking of a clock somewhere. Julian's lawyer leans in, whispers something urgent. Julian's jaw works, his hands clenching and unclenching. And if I refuse? He finally asks. Sebastian stands, and the movement is smooth, predatory. Then I stop being generous. The fraud charges go public. Your reputation, what's left of it, gets shredded. Every business deal you have collapses under investigation. And the 4 million you owe me? He steps closer. I collect. With interest. And my collection methods are significantly less pleasant than paperwork. You're threatening me. No. Sebastian's voice is soft, almost gentle. I'm explaining consequences. There's a difference. Elena watches Julian's face cycle through rage, calculation, fear. His lawyers are already packing up, clearly advising acceptance. Fine, Julian spits. Where do I sign? Right here. Dante slides the contract forward with a pen. And initial every page. We're thorough. It takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes of Julian signing away his claims, his leverage, his twisted little fantasy of owning Elena like property. When he's done, Dante collects the documents with clinical efficiency. One more thing, Sebastian says as Julian stands to leave. Elena Moretti's name never crosses your lips again. You don't call her. Don't contact her. Don't think about her at business meetings. If I hear you've so much as mentioned her at a party, this deal evaporates and the 4 million comes due immediately. Julian's face is purple with suppressed fury, but he nods. Good. Sebastian's smile is all teeth. Dante will show you out. As the door closes behind them, Elena steps out of the bedroom. Sebastian turns and the cold businessman vanishes, replaced by the man who held her last night. It's done, he says softly. You're free. She crosses the room and kisses him, fierce and grateful and still a little scared of what loving him means. But free. Finally, truly free. The city looks different in daylight. Elena watches it slide past the tinted windows of Sebastian's car. The same streets she's known her whole life suddenly unfamiliar, like she's seeing them through new eyes. Maybe she is. Maybe everything changes when you choose to love a man who exists in the spaces between legal and lethal. Sebastian sits beside her, his hand resting on her thigh, thumb tracing absent circles through the fabric of her dress. He's been quiet since they left the penthouse, lost in thought or maybe just giving her space to process everything that's happened in the last 12 hours. She breaks the silence. Who are you really? He turns to her, one eyebrow raised. You already know who I am. No. She shifts to face him fully. I know you're Sebastian DeRossi. I know you run a criminal empire. I know you quoted Neruda in a library and just destroyed Julian Ashford with a contract instead of a bullet. She reaches for his hand, laces their fingers together. But who are you? Underneath all of it. When nobody's watching and you don't have to be the boss or the monster or the man who solves problems. He's quiet for a long moment, studying their joined hands like they hold answers he's been searching for. I'm someone who's tired, he finally says. Tired of the wait. Tired of the violence. Tired of being what everyone needs me to be. His eyes meet hers and there's a vulnerability there that makes her chest ache. And then I met you and for the first time in 10 years, I remembered what it feels like to want something for myself. Not for the family. Not for the empire. Just, for me. She leans in, rests her forehead against his. Then let's be tired together. His laugh is soft, almost relieved. Yeah. He kisses her, slow and deep, and she's just starting to lose herself in it when his phone rings. Sebastian pulls back with a muttered curse, glancing at the screen. His expression shifts, not quite alarm but something close. It's Dante. I need to take this. Go ahead. He answers. What is it? Elena can't hear Dante's response, but she watches Sebastian's face go carefully blank, the expression he wears when he's processing information and preparing for violence. Say that again, Sebastian says, his voice tight. Pause. His jaw clenches. When? Another pause. Longer this time. How many? His hand tightens on hers almost painfully. Get everyone to the safe house. No. I don't care about the meeting, cancel it. And Dante, his voice drops. Find out who leaked it. He ends the call and for 3 seconds he just sits there staring at nothing, his mind clearly racing through scenarios and strategies. Sebastian. Elena's pulse kicks up. What's wrong? He turns to her and there's something in his eyes she hasn't seen before. Something that looks almost like fear. The Morettis weren't the target. What? Last night. Julian showing up, your father's debt, all of it. He runs a hand through his hair, frustrated. It was never about them. It was about getting me to show my hand. To reveal that I care about you. Cold dread pools in her stomach. I don't understand. Someone leaked information about us. About you. Dante just got word from one of our informants. There's a contract out. Not on me. His hand cups her face, desperate. On you. Someone knows I love you, Elena. And they're going to use that against me. Who? Who would? The impact comes without warning. A black SUV slams into the passenger side with the force of a wrecking ball, metal shrieking, glass exploding inward in a shower of crystalline shrapnel. Elena's head snaps sideways, pain blooming white-hot across her vision. Sebastian's shouting something, his body already moving to shield her. But the world is spinning, tilting, the car sliding sideways across asphalt with a sound like the end of the world. Another impact. This one from behind. Their car lurches forward, tires screaming. Through the shattered window, Elena sees it. 3 more SUVs, black and identical, boxing them in like wolves circling wounded prey. Sebastian's gun is already in his hand, his other arm locked around her waist. Stay down, he orders, his voice sharp with command. But she can't look away from the vehicles surrounding them, from the windows rolling down to reveal the barrels of weapons that look like they belong in a war zone. Sebastian. I know. His voice is steady despite everything, despite the blood running down his temple from where glass cut him. I know, baby. Just stay with me. The lead SUV's door opens. A man steps out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that costs more than most cars. His face is scarred, his smile familiar in the worst possible way. And when he speaks, his voice carries across the broken glass and twisted metal with perfect clarity. Hello, nephew. Did you really think you could hide her from the family? Sebastian goes absolutely rigid. Uncle Salvatore. He breathes, and Elena hears something in his voice she's never heard before. We need to talk about your inheritance, Salvatore calls out, still smiling. And about the girl who's making you weak. His men raise their weapons. And the world holds its breath. Elena thought walking away from her family would be the hardest thing she'd ever do. He was wrong. Because loving Sebastian DeRossi comes with a price tag written in blood. And someone just decided it's time to collect. Uncle Salvatore didn't crawl out of the shadows by accident. He's been watching. Waiting. Calculating the exact moment when his nephew would finally have something worth losing. And now that moment is here. On a broken street with shattered glass and guns pointed at the only 2 people who thought they could outrun the weight of the DeRossi name. The thing about choosing love in a world built on violence? You don't just risk your own life. You risk everyone you care about becoming collateral damage. So the real question isn't whether Elena and Sebastian survive the next 5 minutes. It's whether their love can survive what they'll have to do, and who they'll have to become, to make it out alive. Because some battles are fought with bullets. Others are fought with the choice between saving the person you love and losing yourself completely. If you want to find out what happens next, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 2, The Inheritance. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think Elena and Sebastian make it out alive? Or is Uncle Salvatore about to tear their world apart? When loving someone makes you a target, survival becomes an act of war. See you in the next video.